I think the issues at Credit Suisse are different than the issues at First Republic. And the issues at First Republic are different than those other three banks. The other three banks, David, that you mentioned, Signature, Silicon Valley Bank, and Silvergate, all had very traditional liquidity crises, right? We talked about this last week, which is duration mismatching, where you have depositors who want their money today, but you have assets that mature in 10 years. And as a result, you have huge unrealized losses if you all of a sudden cash them out today versus waiting 10 years. I think what's happening at First Republic is really just about making sure that that loan book and the depositors can get parked into a combination set of banks that can take care of the balance sheet so that there are no more liquidity issues. At Credit Suisse, they have an enormous amount of liquidity. What that was I think, a lot of speculation around whether they would default on their bonds or whether they would theoretically need more liquidity. But the balance sheet itself was not only liquid, but also very solvent. So I think that was just more of a panicky reaction to comments from a 9.9% shareholder who just said that they can't put in any more equity. But even then, I went back, this is the chairman of the Saudi National Bank. He was asked on Bloomberg, would you give Credit Suisse more money? And he had a very reasonable answer, but it was snapshotted in a very awkward way. The first sentence was, under no circumstances would he do that. Okay. Now, if you stop there, you could be panicked. But the rest of it made a lot of sense, which is he said, look, in Saudi Arabia, if we go above 10%, we have to go through regulatory approvals domestically, and there are regulatory approvals abroad. That's a big hill to climb. And all of a sudden, it no longer becomes a financial investment. It becomes a somewhat political investment. And so we're very happy at 9.9%. That was the totality of his statement. But if you just cherry pick the first 45 seconds and ran with it, which people on the internet did, this is sort of what caused that second level wave panic at a GSIB. And then the Swiss National Bank stepped in, and I think that panic has largely gone. Okay, so what is the real issue? The issue, again, is I think we have had a bit of supervisory failure here, right? Because we all know this in any industry. If you let capitalism go totally unchecked, shareholders will demand immediate profits today. It happens in every industry, except in ones where you can basically gamble on future profits, and that's what tech does. But every other shareholder in every other asset class demands money today, and that's the same for banks. The problem is the banks are a highly regulated business. They are supposed to be supervised by the regulators. And this is a very clear example where why is there not a real-time spreadsheet? I mean, this is not complicated stuff where assets and liabilities and duration mismatching can be known on a real-time basis, where the San Francisco Fed, Mary Daly, should have a report that's escalated to her when SVB got over their ski tips, which they did in Q4 of 2022. So I think the real question that has to be examined is, where were these folks for the last 4 months when they could have done something, not just about this, but rules in general for all banks that are not the GSIBs? And I think that's a very important question that politicians need to get to the root of.